Alright guys, for F1 news. Hamilton's Ferrari might have just broken the 2026 season before it even begins. While every other team is panicking behind the scenes, Ferrari and Shell are the only team that's had their fuel approved and fully homologated for 2026. And here's the scary part. Mercedes, Red Bull and Aston Martin have just 7 to 10 days to get their fuel sorted. Or they could show up to Melbourne with cars running on significantly less power. We're talking 8 cars potentially crippled on the grid before a single competitive lap is even raced. Could be another feather in Ferrari's cap for the new year, or could be an absolute disaster for everyone else. Your thoughts on that in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy the content. Subscribe if you're new to F1 News Breakdown. As always, loads to get into today. And I haven't even told you about the bombshell that just dropped at Red Bull. Their chief designer of 20 years just walked out the door, no explanation, nothing. We'll get to that. Plus, there's a theory going around that Mercedes are doing all of this on purpose, sandbagging on a level we've never seen before. Stay with me on that one. So here's the situation. This new regulation set for 2026 mandates 100% sustainable fuels. Every team needs their fuel homologated. That means tested and certified. Not just the fuel itself, but the entire production chain. The FIA has delegated this to an external body called ZEMO in the UK, and they have to physically go to the manufacturing plants to verify every single step of the process. It's incredibly complex, and this is the first year they're doing it. Now, Ferrari and Shell, they started working on this 4 years ago. Over 100 specialists, more than 30,000 hours of development. Shell's principal scientist, Dr. Valeria Loretti, described it like designing a tailor-made dress for the Ferrari engine, not buying something off the rack. They used agricultural waste, recycled plastics, paper industry residues, all converted into race fuel, and it worked. Ferrari ran over 4,000 kilometers on this biofuel in Bahrain last week. Hamilton's long-run race simulation was arguably the fastest of anyone on the entire grid. And Audi with BP. They're also approved. But that's it. Just those two. Motorsport Italia put this article out today. Mercedes and Petronas are stuck in this certification process. As the article describes, the homologation process for sustainable fuels has become far more complex than the old fossil fuel system. And it's not just Mercedes, Red Bull with ExxonMobil, Aston Martin with Aramco. Same story. Their fuels are not approved. Now here's what makes this really dangerous. Even if they get it sorted in time for Melbourne, and they've got 7 to 10 days as we understand, they're still missing weeks of testing data that Ferrari already has. Ferrari have been running on their actual race fuel since last Thursday. Nobody else has. That is a massive data advantage that you cannot buy back. This actually reminds me of something that happened to a friend of mine who races at club level. He spent months building a custom engine, had everything dialed in perfectly, the mapping, the turbo, the exhaust. Gets to the event, his fuel blend gets rejected at scrutineering because of one molecule in the composition. Had to race on standard pump fuel. Lost over 40 horsepower overnight. Went from fighting for a podium to running at the back of the pack. And that's basically what Mercedes and Red Bull are staring down right now. Except the stakes here are 100 times bigger. I want to know your take. Should the FIA force every team to use the same fuel? Or is this kind of competition the whole point of F1? Let me know in the comments. But the fuel crisis isn't even the craziest thing that happened today. What just went down at Red Bull is genuinely shocking. So Craig Skinner, he's been at Red Bull since 2006, absolute OG. Started as a CFD engineer worked his way up through aero, became chief of aerodynamics, then chief designer in 2022. He worked very closely with Adrian Newey, now departed to Aston Martin, and Pierre Wache. He was a critical architect of the RB18, RB19, RB20, the cars that gave Verstappen 4 consecutive world titles. And he's gone. Immediately. This car has just been made. It's just about to hit the track properly for the second Bahrain test, and their chief designer has just quit with immediate effect. So it's like, is he happy with the car? Is the car not as good as it could be? Does he want to do something else? The team basically says, he's been an integral part of our team and success. We wish him the best. That's it. For a 20-year veteran. No real explanation to what's going on. Now, this is another departure in the post-Horner era, right? Newey gone, Horner gone, Wheatley gone to Audi, Courtney gone to McLaren. Now Skinner. There's been a lot of talk that maybe he's following Horner to Alpine. We don't know, but it's another one bites the dust. Where do you think Skinner is going? Alpine with Horner? Or something completely different? Drop your theory in the comments. I genuinely want to know what you guys think. Now, if you think Red Bull have problems, wait until you hear what's going on at Aston Martin. The word being used is funeral. So there has been further discussion on what's really going on at Aston Martin. Apparently, they did a last-minute change on their gear ratios, and the feeling is that it's maybe not a Honda problem. It's a gearbox issue primarily. The Honda PU, to be fair to it, has run faultlessly from a reliability perspective. It was the only power unit that never stopped on track during the first 3 days of testing. But the in-house gearbox seemingly couldn't handle the torque, and the engine was running very far down the power range because of it. Antonio Lobato says, and these are his words, it's a complete funeral atmosphere. They've got hydraulic fluid leaks, ERS failures, they're carrying between 5 and 10 kilograms overweight, and they're not as efficient as others when it comes to recharging the battery. And apparently, Fernando Alonso unfollowed Lobato on Instagram after these comments. So I don't know if there's anything in that, but it tells you the mood is raw over there right now. Same situation with Williams, and where Williams are, it's arguably even worse. All the talk was about 2026 being the new dawn for Williams, James Vowles pushing the team forward. But the reality, they're reportedly 25 to 30 kilograms overweight. That's double the next heaviest team. They apparently failed the FIA crash test 5 times, currently sitting 1.5 to 2 seconds off the pace. Vowles himself admits the 2026 car is 3 times as complicated as anything Williams has ever produced. They didn't even show up to Barcelona for the shakedown test. They're running a virtual program instead. Who do you feel worse for here? Alonso stuck in funeral mode at Aston Martin, or the Williams drivers stuck 2 seconds off the pace? Let me know in the comments. Right, now I promised you the Mercedes sandbagging theory. Here's what's going on. So Sebastian Vettel was talking to the media. He was actually sitting down in front of the Red Bull garage, and he says he thinks George Russell is going to win the championship with Mercedes. Now, is it very on brand for Red Bull to say, yeah, of course, Mercedes are the favourites? Maybe. But here's the interesting part. Under the new 2026 rules, after the first 6 or 7 races, teams that are behind get additional development upgrades. So for Mercedes, if they have the best engine and one of the best chassis, they would be well advised not to show their hand. Win by 5 or 10 seconds, not by 30. Avoid triggering those catch-up mechanics for Honda and the teams behind them. But now, with this Petronas fuel crisis, is the sandbagging even real? Or is the situation genuine? Nobody really knows. We'll see what happens when we turn up to Melbourne for real. Quickfire updates to round things off. Madrid track. They say it's 65% ready with asphalt starting Thursday. But the leaked photos from this week look like an absolute mess. 7 months to go, and that's what we're working with. Imola is the likely backup if it's not ready in time. Pirelli. They're looking at a super intermediate tyre for 2027. One wet compound for everything. They're doing a wet test in Bahrain next week using sprinklers on the circuit. Do I have faith Pirelli can pull that off? Probably not, but we'll see. Ferrari upgrades, they're bringing further parts, likely front wing changes, to the second Bahrain test this week. Past the legality checks. They are not slowing down, and the Power Unit Advisory Committee is meeting tomorrow. Compression ratio and fuel topics are on the agenda. That's going to be a big one. Your thoughts on all of that in the comments, especially the Mercedes theory. Do you think they're genuinely in trouble, or are they playing everyone? If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to F1 News Breakdown so you don't miss what comes out of that meeting. So to sum up everything we've covered, Ferrari is the only top team with approved fuel and the fastest race pace. Red Bull have lost their chief designer with no explanation. Mercedes is either sandbagging or genuinely struggling with their Petronas fuel. Aston Martin is in funeral mode, with a broken gearbox. Williams can't even pass a crash test. And the Madrid track looks like it belongs in a rally stage, not Formula One. This season hasn't even started, and it's already chaos. If you want to stay on top of every twist and every piece of drama as we count down to Melbourne, make sure you are subscribed to F1 News Breakdown. Hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notification, and smash the like. It genuinely helps the channel grow more than you know. One last thing. Drop your boldest prediction for the 2026 season in the comments. Who wins the first race in Melbourne? Who's going to be the biggest surprise this year? And who's going to be the biggest disaster? I read every single comment, so let's talk. Thanks for all the support. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next one.